Morning. Welcome to Monday, February 4th. And got cold here yesterday. It's not supposed to do that. You know, I joke around about how the East Coast gets all this snow and we get, blooming trees and stuff, but I don't mean it. You guys can take it back. We don't really need to have it. That's really not a thing. All right. So let's go ahead and get things started before I go out to try to appease the weather gods. Vancouver is in Philly tonight, and that should be an interesting matchup, as every time Vancouver's gone to an East Coast swing, it's been a disaster this year. So even though this is a mini swing, Philly tonight, and then Washington, and then Chicago after, even though it's a mini swing with this 3-game road trip, there's some nerves for me about this. The Canucks are 24-22-6. They're in against the 23-23-6 Philadelphia Flyers. It's taken a while, but the Flyers are back to a 500 record. Over their last 10, Vancouver's 5-3-2. They won their last game, whereas the Philadelphia Flyers are 8-2 in their last 10. They've won 7 in a row. Looking at their last 5 games, Vancouver's most recent was a 5-1 win at Colorado. Before that, they lost 5-2 at home versus Carolina. Before that, they defeated Detroit 3-2. They also defeated Buffalo at home 4-3. And at another home game, they lost in a shootout against the Edmonton Oilers 3-2. So, not a great, not a bad last 5 games, so to speak. I mean, they didn't fall into a trap against Detroit or Buffalo or Colorado. But the only playoff team on the board out of all those teams is none of them. So, there you go. Vancouver hasn't played a team that currently resides in the playoffs in their last 5. Philadelphia, on the other hand, their winning streak has been populated by some relatively good teams. Their most recent was a 5-4 overtime win at home against the Oilers. They won 3-2 in overtime at the Boston Bruins before that. 1-0 at the New York Rangers. 3-1 at home versus the Winnipeg Jets. 5-2 at Montreal against the Canadiens. So, over their last 5, they've won all 5, and they've beaten some pretty good contenders in there. Or at least teams that fashion themselves as contenders. Goals leaders on the Vancouver side, Peterson, 23. Horvat, 17. Besser, 17. Or Horvat's got 18. Besser, 17. Virtanen, 12. Eriksson, 9. Levo also has 9. On the Philadelphia side, Couturier, 20. Simmons, 16. Giroux, also 16. Konechny, 14. And Van Riemsdyk, who's been pretty hot lately, 13 for him. Hits. So I went into the hits. And again, I cut it off as anybody with 100 or more hits. On the Vancouver side, Mott has 130. He's become kind of a fan favorite among the bottom 6. Goodbranson, 113. And Jake Virtanen with 108. Bringing the physical game this year for Vancouver. On the Philadelphia side, Haig, 164. Gudas, 158. So only those two with 100 or more, but pretty impressive totals there. And if it comes down to a hitting game, I favor Philly, but that's just sort of because they're the Flyers and they're at home kind of thing. Goaltenders, no confirmation for Vancouver. You've got Markstrom, who's 20, 13-5. Demko's 1-0-0. Whereas Carter Hart's been confirmed for the Flyers. He's 9-5-1 with a 921 save percentage. Stolarz is 3-3-2, 896 save percentage. He's the backup. Special teams, power play for Vancouver's at 17.2% as compared to Philadelphia's 16.2%. That went up 1.7% thanks to the Edmonton Oilers. So there you go. The Oilers making a difference all around the NHL. Penalty kill, 79.5% for Vancouver, 76.4% for the Philadelphia Flyers. Both teams would like to improve that mark. Goals for and against, Vancouver's at 151 for, 159 against. Even with this run, Philadelphia's got 149 for and 176 against. Lots of goals against for them. All right, next up. Arizona's in against Dallas tonight. This should be a very interesting game. Arizona's 23-5, looking to get back on track after a couple of setbacks. Whereas the Dallas Stars are 27-21-4. They're 5-5 in their last 10. They've won 4 in a row, as opposed to the 6-2-2 in their last 10 Arizona Coyotes, who've lost 2 in a row. Arizona's last 5 games, they lost at San Jose 3-2 in overtime. They lost at Montreal 2-1. They won at Ottawa 3-2. They of course won at Toronto 4-2, and they lost in overtime versus Pittsburgh 3-2. On the Dallas side of things, they last won at Nashville 3-1. They won at home versus Minnesota 3-1. They won at home versus Buffalo 1-0. Versus Dallas, they won 4-2. Or versus Dallas. Versus Winnipeg 4-2. And before that, of course, they lost versus LA 2-1. And that was a listless game for the Dallas Stars. And maybe that was the one that woke them up. Because since then, they're undefeated. Goals leaders for Arizona: Fisher, Keller, and Richardson all have 11. Stepan, Panik, and Garland all have 10. So Connor Garland, with a 2-goal game, depending on what other players do, he could be the leading goal scorer for the Arizona Coyotes after tonight. Dallas, their leading goal scorers: Sagan with 21, Ben with 19, Radulov with 14, Heiskanen with 9, and Faksa with 8. So again, the scoring depth for Dallas, it looked good last game. Let's see if it keeps up. But the reason that they've won 4 in a row, they've only allowed 4 goals in those 4 games. So pretty solid goaltending all around. Hits leaders for the Arizona Coyotes: Krause has 161, Lyubushkin has 121. On the Dallas side, Como has 147, Polak has 126, and Alexiak, who's returned from Pittsburgh, 101 hits. No confirmation on goaltenders. I would expect Kemper. He's 11-11 and 5, 914 save percentage. Pickard would be the backup, 4-3 2, 869 save percentage. Ouch. Those numbers are mostly Philly. Dallas, I would expect Bishop. Hudobin started the last game. Bishop's 18-12 2, 925 save percentage. Hudobin's 9-9 2 with a 926 save percentage. Special teams, the power play for Arizona at 17.7%. Their penalty kill at 87.1%. So good number there on the penalty kill for sure, absolutely. On the Dallas side, their power plays at 20%. Their penalty kills at 83.2%. So good numbers for Dallas when it comes to the special teams. Goals for Arizona, 132. Goals against, 144. Goals for Dallas, 133. Goals against, 130. So thanks to this 4-game winning streak, they finally have more goals than they have goals against. See if they can keep that up. As I said after that last win against Nashville, I'm starting to get a little bit more optimistic. This is one of those games that will either fuel that optimism or kill it. It's kind of one of those things. It's one or the other. Can't be both. Next up, Anaheim. So the Ducks, who've been miserable for 17 games now. Can they break out of it? Well, there's some good news, bad news to this. They're in against a Toronto team that there's pressure every night for Toronto to win, which is, good news for Anaheim. The bad news is they're a pretty good team that overcomes that pressure more than half the time. And that's something Anaheim hasn't been able to do. Anaheim's 21-22-9. The Toronto Maple Leafs are 31-17-3. Over their last 10, Anaheim's 2-6-2. They've lost 3 in a row. Toronto 4-5-1. They lost their last game. The good news for Anaheim is they lost 9-3 in their last game, and usually after a huge blowout like that, teams will come back and win. The problem is the game before that, they lost 5-1 versus St. Louis. And that I qualify as kind of a blowout as well. And usually when a team loses by 4 or more goals, they win the next one. And it just didn't happen with Anaheim. Game before that, they lost 3-0 at the New York Islanders. So it just seems to be progressively getting worse, from 3-0 to 5-1 and then 9-3. So I guess that means that the Leafs could score 14 tonight. They did win their 2 games previous to that, at New Jersey 3-2 and at Minnesota 3-0. But those are long forgotten now. On the Toronto side, they last won at home against Pittsburgh 3-2. They lost in overtime at Detroit 3-2. Before the All-Star break, they beat Washington 6-3, which was of great happiness to Toronto fans. But it kind of hid the fact that they lost versus Arizona 4-2 and lost at Florida 3-1 before that. But before that, they beat Tampa. So the other good thing, if you're an Anaheim fan, is Toronto tends to not play very well against the lower-ranked teams in the NHL, at least lately. Goals leaders, Anaheim. Silverberg has 12, Kasha has 11, Getzlaf 10, Henrique, 9. Sprong, 9. They need more goal scoring. I'm looking at you, Corey Perry. You've been back for a game now. Let's see in game 2 if you can still score goals at the NHL level. On the Toronto side, Tavares, 30. Matthews, 23. Marner, 20. Kapanen, 15. Riley, 13. And Kadri, 13. That's right. The leading goal scorer for Anaheim would not make the top 5 in Toronto. Goaltenders, confirmation on the Toronto side, not on the Anaheim side. It's going to be Gibson. He's 17, 17, and 8. His save percentage is down to 916. As much as Anaheim fans want to see him get votes and consideration for the Vezina, it's not going to happen with those numbers, and it's unfortunate. Johnson's 2 and 9 with an 886 save percentage. Freddie Anderson will start tonight. He's 22, 11, and 2 with a 922 save percentage. Sparks is the backup, 7, 3, and 1, 909 save percentage for him. So things for Toronto. Everything's weighed in their favor, but it kind of was against Arizona and Florida as well. And so we'll see where things fall tonight. Special teams, Anaheim's power play is anemic at 14.4%. Their penalty kill, 79.4%. Whereas Toronto's power play is at 20.9%. It's been lagging lately, though. But they have a chance to get it on track tonight. Their penalty kills at 80.3%. So special teams side of things, they're way ahead of Anaheim. Goals for, Anaheim's at 120. Goals against are at 160. Ouch. Toronto goals for 179. Goals against 145. So Toronto should be favored in this one. Everybody should be expecting a win. However, based on their recent struggles against Detroit, Arizona, Florida, none of those teams are in the playoffs. Now they beat Washington and Pittsburgh, and before that they beat Tampa. See how they do against Anaheim. Should be a really, really fun game to watch. Next up, and last but not least, it's the Kings. These guys in against the New York Rangers. The Kings are 20, 27, and 4 overall. The Rangers are 22, 22, and 7 overall. So neither of these teams look like they're going to the playoffs. But for LA, there's playing for pride. They're 4, 5, and 1 in their last 10. They lost their last game. Whereas the Rangers are 5 and 5. They also lost their last game. And it seems like there's kind of a deflated sense around Ranger games right now that, well, this one's over again. Over their last 5, the LA Kings lost 4-2 at the New York Islanders. They played well. They lost, but they played relatively well. They won versus St. Louis 4-3, and that was after the 7-1 loss at Colorado. I think it was that loss at Colorado that finally forced the Jake Muzzin trade, that forced LA management to say, yeah, we're not going to do this year. They previously won at Dallas, and before that they lost in a shootout at Minnesota 3-2. On the Rangers side of things, their last 5 games, they lost versus Tampa 3-2. They won at New Jersey 4-3. Before that, they lost versus Philadelphia 1-0. They beat Boston 3-2, and they won versus Chicago 4-3. So over their last 5, it hasn't been too bad for the Rangers, but again, it just feels like they're playing out the string at this stage, because they kind of are. Goals leaders: Kopitar leads the Kings with 15, Brown with 12. Kovalchuk, Carter, and Iafallo all have 10. On the Rangers side, Kreider has 23, Zibanejad 20, Vesey and Hayes have 11 each. Zuccarello, Buchnevich, and Hedl all have 9 goals for the New York Rangers. Hits leaders for the Kings, Doughty's the only one at 100. He's got 107. On the Rangers side, Brady Shea has 120, Kreider has 113. So, Shea isn't scoring the way that had been anticipated, but at least he's getting the hits and he's playing the defense. So, we'll see if that offense shows up again at this stage of the season or next season. But for right now, it's not as bad as it could look for him. Goaltending, no confirmation on this one. I would say, I would not be surprised if it's Campbell. Campbell's 6 and 9 with a 931 save percentage. Quick's 9, 13, and 3 with a 904 save percentage. On the Rangers side, I expect Lundqvist. He's 16, 13, and 7 with a 907 save percentage. Georgiev is 6 and 9 with an 897 save percentage for the Rangers. Power play for the Kings is at 15%. That's terrible. Penalty kill, 74.7%. The LA Kings have always been known for having a really solid penalty kill. That number's weird to me. On the Rangers side, their power play is actually an impressive 21.4%. Their penalty kill, 76.7%. So, all of them under 80 with the exception of, well, 5 of them are under 80. You've got the Leafs at 80.3, Dallas 83.2, and Arizona 87.1. So don't bet on a lot of power play goals in this game. There may be a few in this one. Goals for are hard to come by for the Kings. They're at 115, goals against 153. So they've allowed less goals than the Ducks. They've only allowed 8 more goals than Toronto, but they've scored 65 less. Yeah. The Rangers side, goals for 140, goals against 169. That's not going to get it done either. So overall, some interesting matchups tonight, and we'll see how this affects the playoff matchups that we're going to track for the next couple of months. And a couple of months from now, we're going to be like, and the season's over. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. You just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.